back to another movie review. This is for another one. I know. Another one of the American Girl movies. I know, I was kind of brutal on the Molly one. Like, really brutal. I don't know what crawled up my butt that day. I'm sorry. But this is for the one on Kittredge, An American Girl. It's the title. I was very skeptical after the Molly one of, oh god, did they all just go downhill from here? No, I think the Molly one was a fluke. And it's not even that the Molly one was a bad movie. It was just I had issues with the character more than anything. But Kittredge only takes place a decade earlier. It takes place in the 1930s. So, I mean, this is still kind of in my wheelhouse. And musically, I was like, hey, I still know all the music, and this was great. But, anywho, this one takes place during the Great Depression, which I had to actually, like, pause and take a moment, like, part of the way through watching this and realize my grandparents lived through that. My great-grandparents on the other side lived through that. I wish they were still around where I could have asked them about that. I don't think I ever really did, and I have a lot of regrets about that. But, yeah, just that realization of seeing it portrayed and come to life on the screen and realizing my grandparents and great-grandparents literally lived through that. That just was a very sobering thought to me. And luckily they weren't hit as hard by it as a lot of people were, just because of how well off they were in life from the word go. No, I'm not saying that to be a braggy douche, I'm saying it because it's fact, but they definitely saw some shit and it stayed with all of them for the rest of their lives, and how they approached money and how they approached just everything. So, I mean, stuff like that leaves a lasting impact, and again, it really makes me wish I had asked them about that stuff while they were still around, but I don't know, it just never seemed like the time to ask or appropriate to ask, or I don't know, but definitely kicking myself now that I never did. But regardless, back to this movie. It starts out in, I want to say, either 1933 or 1934. And basically, it looks like a very typical, traditional American neighborhood and everything for that era and all, until things start to go awry. I mean, the main character loves to write articles. She aspires to be a newspaper journalist one day, and she has a typewriter up in her treehouse that she writes articles on, mostly for herself, but in hopes of getting published one day. But, she's writing about the Great Depression, and how it doesn't really seem like, I mean, I hear about it, but it doesn't seem to affect us. And almost no sooner does that line come out of her mouth, like, I think it's the next scene, where she's having a meeting in her treehouse with her friends. They have their own secret treehouse club. They look out the window and they see a foreclosure sign going up on their friend's house, and seeing all of their belongings being carried out. And they have to ask what that means, and one of them explains what foreclosure means, and yeah, sure enough, those poor girls, I mean, apparently they had been making ends meet by selling eggs and were wearing chicken feed dresses, as they were called, and they were ridiculed mercilessly at school for that. And Kit was just horrified by all of this and didn't understand why it was happening. And things go on, and I think there's a project at school where they have to volunteer in a soup kitchen and then write about it. And while Kit is there, she sees her dad in there. She didn't realize they were struggling until that moment. And it's not too long after that that her dad has to go out of state, I think to Chicago, to work, just to even find work, while they stay at home and try to hold down the fort and everything and try to get by. So the mom is forced to shift things around so she can take boarders in at their home, and just to collect some kind of rent and make ends meet so their house doesn't get foreclosed on. And they have all sorts of interesting boarders. They have one lady who's a dance instructor, who's kind of like a floozy blonde character. She's fun. I like her. There's another character who's a magician. Interesting, but more on that later. There's one who's a traveling librarian, which is kind of interesting as well. She has like a bookmobile. Back in the day, they had a bookmobile, even though I don't know if that was really a thing in the 30s. It's literally like, looked like a chicken van, but with bookshelves inside of it. Yeah, anyway. So she has all these boarders, and, a lady and her kid. I'm not sure if it was the librarian who's the mom of the kid who's also a boarder who also goes to Kit's school, and she finds it very weird to be living with someone from school. Or if that was a different lady. I want to say it was a different lady, but yeah, it was a different lady. Sorry, I know, I just watched it this morning. I shouldn't already be space cadetty. I should have filmed this right after watching it. This is always my downfalls. If I don't do it right after, I start forgetting stuff. But, anyways, and she just grows accustomed to this. I mean, they make do. They're doing what they have to do to get by. And, I mean, things get harder and harder as time goes by, and the depression gets worse. Until the bank threatens to foreclose on their house. And they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do. And meanwhile, there's these... I forgot a very crucial part of the plot, guys. I'm so sorry. So there's these two boys. They're traveling hobos, but they're just looking for work. They're honest, hardworking boys. They just want to work for food. That's all they want. They don't want money. They just want to be able to eat. And obviously, people of their caliber are very, very... bad hobos, because they don't trust them, they think they'll rob them, they think they'll mug them, which, I mean, did happen, but they're very iffy about this, but at the same time, Kit's mother is a mother, and can't stand to see these boys go hungry, so she offers them food as an advance, and says to come back in the morning, she'd find stuff for them to do, and they start working for her. Meanwhile, Kit becomes friends with the older boy and learns about what it's like to be a hobo and visits their Hobo Jungle, which is basically just a hobo encampment. Surprisingly, Colin Mochrie is in this movie. I did not expect to see Colin Mochrie in here, but I think all of these movies have at least one unexpected celebrity guest star, and I'm like, oh, okay. Although, Wallace Shawn is also in it as the owner of the newspaper, so I'm just like, oh, okay, we get two of them in this movie, alright. So, anyways, she's learning what it's like, he's teaching her how to read hobo signs, I mean, it's like a whole thing, and she gets to know him very well, knows he's a trustworthy guy, but there's a string of robberies happening, and they know that there's a hobo doing them, and it's looking like the finger of suspicion is pointing towards this guy, even though Kit, in trying to write her articles, trying to get anything published in the paper, had been asking about these as they'd been happening, and all of them had had a thing in common. The robber had a tattoo of a bird on his arm, and this guy doesn't have any tattoos, so she's like, it's not him, I know for a fact it's not him, even though everything happening is, like, setting it up to look more and more and more like it's him. As you do, otherwise we'd have no plot. But, anyway, so right as they're talking about how the bank might foreclose, and, oh, in light of all these robberies, we better lock up our valuables in a safe and put it somewhere, and almost no sooner do they do this, oh, the magician guy gets a letter from his injured, ailing cousin who has to come stay with them, and almost immediately, guess what goes missing? Guess who gets robbed? And it just looks that much more like this boy who'd been working for them, because he had happened to walk in the room right as they'd been mentioning the safe. Horrible timing, but yeah, this unfortunately put the police hot on his trail, even though Kit was insisting that no, he didn't do it. I know for a fact he didn't do it. I'll prove he didn't do it. So she and her friends basically set out to prove that he is innocent, and they will find who is actually doing it. And long story short, it turns out to be the magician and his injured cousin, since they find in the suitcase in that room, I forget what it was that tipped him off in the first place, but they go up there when the house was empty at one point, and they know from reading mystery novels that a lot of these old trunks have, like, secret buttons in them that opens a secret compartment, and they find it, and sure enough, all the valuables that have been robbed are in there, minus the safe with their money. And they have to hide out because, all of a sudden those two had come back without them hearing. So they're hiding in the armoire, and they're overhearing the entire damn plan of, apparently the safe had been buried, and they have to go dig it up because, oh shit, the cops are getting a little too close for comfort, so they better skip town. Kit hears all of this, and before they can make it out to the car, she decides, I'm getting in that car. I'm gonna follow them. And her friends are like, no, don't, it's a terrible idea. And she's like, yeah, just go tell the librarian lady, go get the police. Which they do, but there's a thing. The phone's not hooked up in their house, and the library lady would have known that. And this is when Kit realizes, oh shit, she's in on it! Which, I mean, it seemed a little far-fetched, but at the same time, yeah, that. It's an interesting mystery twist to an American Girl movie. I hadn't seen one of those yet, which, it works. It does work. Basically, they take it into Vigilante Justice to frame them with her camera and everything, with her friends, and somewhere in there, apparently, the librarian lady just switches alliances just on the spot, which kind of unrealistic, but I guess she feels bad because they weren't supposed to rob these people, but they ended up robbing them anyway. But, she decides she's had enough, and anyway, they end up catching them. All the people from the Thehobo Jungle help them capture the bad guys. The cops are made note of it. They're carted away. The one guy has his name cleared as not being terrible. And this whole time that Kit had been trying to get an article published and been shot down over and over and over and over again, no matter what she submitted. Article about the World's Fair, article about hobos, they're just like us, articles about what the Great Depression is like from a kid's point of view, this, that, and the other. Finally, one of the ones about not all hobos are bad, this is what a day in the life of a hobo looks like, as written by a kid, gets published right after that, since, she was kind of the one that saved the day there. And it's all very sweet, and it ends on Thanksgiving, since I think all of the American Girl movies must have some holiday tied into them somewhere, since it seems to work out that way. But anywho, it's a cute movie. I actually thoroughly enjoyed this one, like a lot more than I expected to. I might even say this one's possibly now my favorite one that I've seen yet. And almost immediately, just by Kit's cute little 1930s cloche, I was just like, that is so cute. I bet I could make one. Yeah, guess who started working on one this morning while still watching the movie, so, that may be a thing. But anyway, I honestly would rate it a 5 out of 5. I thought it was a good movie all around, not even just, like, as a kid's movie, just, like, as a movie, period. I found it very, very cute. Yeah, it's wholesome, since it is a kid movie, but at the same time, I mean, it's very cute. The pacing's really good. It doesn't drag. It's not too fast. It's just right. The characters are just fleshed out enough. The action, the plots and everything, they don't seem too contrived. Everything fits. It all falls into place. And I'm hoping that this means that maybe, like, the movies start just improving more and more and more the further on they go, because they were starting to get the hang of it. And this one didn't make me cry, so yay. But, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't care if it's meant for kids or not. As a grown-ass adult, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really cute. So, anyways. Oh, gosh, I'm babbling. So, that is it for me for this one. I am very annoyed by this little bit of hair right here that won't stay down. So, anyways. That is it from me. So, as usual, you guys know what to do. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. If you're not already, you'd like to click subscribe, hit that notification bell icon so you never miss an upload, leave comments down below, make sure you're following my social media accounts, my Facebook fan page, my Twitter, my Instagram, my Etsy. I also have a subreddit, it's also listed down below. If you like what I do here on this channel and you'd like to help support it, the donation link, as always, is down in the description. Get your name on the end card for a month from the time of donating, and grab yourself some donator perks if you want them. And as always, in case you need to hear it today and you haven't yet, I'm proud of you. I love you. You're doing a great job today. See you next time.